Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Amityville BOE School District Board of Education meeting, the regular monthly meeting, April 10th, 2024. It is now 5:36, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Present at the meeting right now is myself, President Lisa Johnson, First Vice President Jeanette Santos, Second Vice President Carol Seahawk, Superintendent Dr. Gina Talbot, Trustee Dave Heller, Trustee Leslie Kretz. Also present is Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Dr. Joe Lane, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Dr. Bridget Waite. Legal counsel is here, Lisa Hutchison, as well as District Clerk Melissa Durden. It's anticipated that Juan Leon will be showing up for the meeting, as well as Ms. Louis Watsi, who is Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operation. At this point in time, at 5:37 p.m., can I have a motion to go into executive session from advice from counsel, advice from counsel for pending litigation and also particular person's employment history? So moved.
Second.
Leslie Prince is first, Dave Heller is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We will resume open at 7:30. Thank you.
Education meeting. The Board of Education met in executive session earlier this evening for advice from counsel regarding pending litigation as well as particular person's employment history. At this point in time, please silence your cell phones. Please also note the exits nearest where you are seated, and please join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. At this point in time, I'm turning the meeting over to Dr. Talbot.
Good evening to members of the board, our colleagues, and concerned community members. Tonight marks a pivotal moment in our journey towards maintaining fiscal responsibility while ensuring our district's continued education excellence. As we gather here, I am compelled to address the pressing matter of our budget for the upcoming fiscal year, which undoubtedly weighs heavily on all of our minds. As previously communicated, we are facing a substantial budget variance of $4,620,495 from our current 2023-24 budget to the proposed 24-25 budget. This significant difference necessitates a strategic and prudent approach to uphold our commitment to fiscal prudence while safeguarding the quality of education for our students, scholars. To address this challenge, tonight's presentation will outline a difficult but comprehensive cost reduction plan to achieve a balanced budget within the confines of the 3.07% tax cap. This plan will thoroughly examine various areas where savings can be realized, including retirement benefits, administrative restructuring, instructional programs, BOCES services, transportation, after-school programs, and other pertinent cost considerations. We will delve into specific scenarios pertaining to our beloved Northeast Elementary School, a cornerstone of our community since its establishment in 1952. The Northeast Elementary School holds profound implications for our district. As such, we must carefully weigh our options and consider the best course of action in alignment with our overarching goals. One of the most critical decisions we face tonight is whether to stay within the confines of the tax cap or consider piercing it to meet the financial demands. This decision carries significant implications for our district, for our community, and most importantly, the quality of education we provide to our student scholars. Staying within the tax cap is undoubtedly a prudent approach, reflecting our commitment to fiscal responsibility and sensitivity to the financial burdens borne by our taxpayers. It sends a message of fiscal discipline and accountability, reassuring our community that we are mindful stewards of their hard-earned dollars. However, it is imperative to recognize that adhering strictly to the tax cap may necessitate sacrifices that could compromise the quality of education and essential services we provide. As we explore avenues for cost reduction, we must be cognizant of the potential impact on our students, staff, and overall educational experience. Conversely, piercing the tax cap allows us to access additional resources that may be indispensable in maintaining the integrity of our educational programs and services. It allows us greater flexibility to address pressing needs and invest in initiatives that propel our district forward. The decision to pierce the cap should not be taken lightly. It requires careful consideration of the long-term implications, including the financial burden imposed on our taxpayers and the necessity for transparent communication regarding the rationale behind such a decision. As we deliberate on this pivotal choice tonight, I implore each of you to weigh the pros and cons, thoughtfully keeping the best interests of our students, scholars, and community at the forefront of our deliberations. Let us approach this decision with pragmatism, compassion, and a steadfast commitment to the overarching goals of our district. The presentation that you have received tonight, the community should have hard copies. The board is receiving those same hard copies tonight, and a discussion will pursue about what is presented to them. We thank you for your attention, and we look forward to a fruitful discussion as we move forward in this next step tonight. At this time, Ms. Buatsi will come. She may be accompanied by Mr. Frazier at some point, as well as the cabinet as we walk through the various slides that she will present.
Thank you, Dr. Talbot. Can everyone hear me? Okay. I'm going to begin by breaking down some of the areas that Dr. Talbot mentioned in her initial presentation. And as we go through it, I'm sure any questions that anyone has, we'll be ready to entertain them. This is a way for us to bring down the $4.6 million that Dr. Talbot alluded to. And we'll begin, as she said, with the retirement incentive. And if you recall last week, the Board of Education approved an incentive plan for ATA. At this point, based on an average savings of 5 potential retirees, we anticipate a savings of about $150,000. Cost reduction plan for administration. The plan here is to reduce 1 FTE, Director of Data and Instructional Technology. This was in the budget, $185,000. The plan is also to eliminate the position of dean at the middle and high schools, eliminate the director of ENL, bilingual and world languages, that's 1 position. Eliminate the position of 1 assistant principal. Restructure the HR assistant superintendent position. And also eliminate 1 clerical position. The proposed reduction here, we anticipate, will result in additional reduction in employee benefit of about $217,000 for a total of administrative reduction of about $1 million. Reduction in instructional programs. The plan is to eliminate 1 FTE attendance teacher. We had already eliminated 1 position. Eliminate 1 additional instructional coach. Please note that these positions, where their seniority, will go in and take the position of other employees. So the least senior is the one who will be affected. Redesign the bilingual ENL program. Reduce 1 Strive class, which was intended for the 24-25 school year. Reduce advanced placement offerings for only under-enrolled classes. So the plan here is, if we review the number of students who are enrolled in the class and they are less than about 10, and this is something that will be discussed with the high school and middle school administration before it is implemented. We will advise the students or put them in other classes. The proposed reduction in instructional program will yield another $100,000 in benefit cuts. We're also considering reducing the number of foreign language classes that we have. We currently offer Spanish, French, and American Sign Language. The plan here is to look at the sequence. So you can't reduce all of them in 1 year, because if there are already students in the pipeline, it doesn't make sense to just cut them abruptly, especially if they need it for graduation. So this is also an area which will be reviewed very carefully before any cuts are made. The proposed savings here is one FTE in 24-25. In addition to all of that, we are proposing no district-funded out-of-state trips. This will yield a total savings of about $790,000. Reduction in BOCES program. We subscribe to a number of BOCES programs because it also yields us BOCES aid. And because of our aid ratio, we do get a lot of money from BOCES. But then you have to pay for it before you receive the state aid. So we look at all our BOCES services and we think we can reduce some of those areas. Chromebook repairs, we negotiated with the company and was able to bring the cost down. Printer repairs, we think we can bring it down, and then distance learning. Transportation, we've talked about transportation a number of times. The plan here is to eliminate early and loop buses. And what that means is that if kids go to a program and they get back to the high school, we have to drop all of them at home. We want to evaluate that because it adds cost to our current transportation contract. We also are looking at modifying the start times for school and to reduce the number of buses that we currently use to transport kids in district and outside. We also, this is another good area where we want to collaborate with our neighboring school districts. So if we have a number of students going to the same school from neighboring school district, we will plan ahead with the bus company and try to put our student with another student from another school district. Then we share the cost, because sometimes the van cost for students going to schools that are a little bit far away can be very, very, very expensive. And then we also want to eliminate out-of-district field trip. We are also planning to restructure after-school programs by eliminating district-wide intramural and then eliminate clubs. But we also are looking for ways to fund those programs through grants. Other cost considerations: limit the use of facilities. Yes, we want our residents to use our facilities, but this is an area that we have to review carefully. If you don't need 3 security, you can do with 2. We would do that. Also, we will look at weekend and Saturday events because it requires custodial and security services. And per collective bargaining agreement, they have to be paid double time or time and a half for Saturdays and Sundays. So we'll review those requests very, very carefully when we are granting them. And then we want to look at to eliminate all district-funded conferences. Of course, if there's no cost to it, we will look at that, because some of those conferences are very essential to the development of our staff and students as well. The cuts that I have outlined above come out to be $2.8 million. So take the $4.6 million, and if you subtract the $2.8 million, we are looking at a balance of about $1.8 million that we have to look to eliminate further.
So Ms. Buatsi, as you transition to the next slide, I would just like to clarify what you just mentioned around that 1.7. In considerations of any school closures or restructures, we understand there are regulations, of course, that we must consider. That is not embedded in this presentation, but the contextual knowledge in moving forward, we are aware of that. In addition to the rehousing option that you're going to be presenting, we understand that a waiver would have to be submitted in order to have those classrooms to meet the needs of our pre-K students. So I wanted to just set that tone that we're presenting this, but there's a lot more that has to be considered and that we are aware that we need to take some next steps. Thank you.
So the next couple of slides, we are going to talk about how we restructure Northeast Elementary School. We build, this is an area that the administration has been going back and forth on, and we are all involved in this process. So as I go through the presentation, I'll defer some of it, some particulars, to some of my colleagues to talk about. The first scenario that we discussed was close the program at Northeast Elementary School. If we close the program, the savings, anticipated savings, will be about $1.7 million. Then we look at rehousing. Rehousing means that we will move the program from Northeast Elementary School to Northwest Elementary School. Currently, we have the three Strive classes at Northeast Elementary School. Those classes will come to this building, Park Avenue Elementary School. Then there is the option to leave the program as is. And that will mean we have to look at the tax levy and decide on whether to pierce the cap or not. So if we close the program at Northeast, what will that entail? About 8 regular classroom teaching positions, 1 E&L teacher, 0.5 FTE, that's half-time physical education position, 1 social worker, 3 custodians, 2 clerical positions, 1 building principal, 9 monitors, 8 teaching assistants, 3 permanent substitute, 3 permanent substitute, 2 security, 1 school nurse, and the elimination of transportation. Let me go back and state this. The positions that will be eliminated will be based on seniority. And the projections that we have there were based on seniority. So the number that you see over there may not necessarily be the individual that is in that building. The other option is to rehouse the program at Northwest Elementary School. That will involve the 6 teachers, 6 elementary school classroom teachers will be moved from Northeast to Northwest. 1 E&L teacher will also be moved to Northwest, but we also have to reduce 2 teaching positions. 1 psychologist will be moved from the PPS department to complete all bilingual evaluations. 6 teaching assistant position will move with the pre-K classes at Northwest. 9 monitors, 2 security, 1 school net, and 1 social worker position will also go to Northwest Elementary School. The reduction will be $869,630. So this is the summary that the whole presentation that I've given so far presents. If you recall, I mentioned that the budget gap at this point in time is $4.6 million. If Northeast is closed and we go through all the scenario that I outlined, that will yield us about $4.6 million. However, if we rehouse Northeast, the savings over there will be about $869,000. And if you recall, again, the gap that we are trying to close is $4.6 million, which means that we have to go back and cut an additional $892,000. So what does it mean on the tax levy? Currently, based on the calculation that I showed last week, the tax levy increase or the levy to levy increase is projected at 3.077% increase. What does it translate into? In the Amityville School District, we are in two towns, Oyster Bay and the town of Babylon. And every year, before we apportion the taxes, we receive what is called an equalization rate that will give us the full value of the properties in each side of the town. And that is how we proportionately allocate the taxes between the two towns. And based on that percentage, town of Babylon takes about 67 to 68% of the taxes, and the Oyster Bay portion of the district takes about 32% of the taxes. So if you split that increase that I'm talking about between the town of Oyster Bay and the town of Babylon, you're coming up with $1.3 billion for the town of Babylon and $636,000 for the town of Oyster Bay. We have about 4,000 tax-paying units in the town of Babylon and about 2,000 in the town of Oyster Bay. So if we keep the tax levy at the cap, we are saying that the average homeowner increase in taxes, this is an average, will be about $327 next year for the town of Babylon and $306. This is an average. Every individual have their own, they have their own assessed value. So depending on your assessed value, this number could go up or down. So if your assessment is below the average, naturally your increase will go down. But if your assessed value, which is what is used to tax every individual, every property owner, then your taxes will go higher. What does it translate into a monthly cost? $27.23 for the town of Babylon and $25.51 for the town of Oyster Bay. The daily rate is 90 cents for the town of Babylon and 84 cents for the town of Oyster Bay. To keep Northeast open will mean that our levy to levy increase will be at 5.84. And how did I get to that? You take the 1.9 that I mentioned previously and add the $1.7 million to it for a total of $3.7 million. And how does it split between the two towns? The average cost increase per home, if we tag on the cost to maintain Northeast, will be $620.44 for the town of Babylon and $581.02 for the town of Oyster Bay. And the monthly cost is $51.70 for the town of Babylon and $48.42. The daily rate is reflected on the screen. If we rehouse the program, remember I said there was an amount that we still needed to cut. If that amount is added to the rehousing cost, that will bring us to the same level as if we are funding the Northeast building as is. And the levy, as well as the number of units, the average yearly cost increases will remain as $620.44 for the town of Babylon and $581.02 for the town of Oyster Bay. So this is a summary of what I just spoke about, of the yearly increases for the town of Oyster Bay and the town of Babylon. And that ends the presentation. Are there any questions?
Does any board members have any questions first before we? So, go ahead, Mr.
The only
Heller.
thing is, I just want everyone to realize that,
Mr. Heller, just bring the mic a lot
this-
closer. Thank you.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the first time the board is actually seeing this as well. We had talked earlier in January, when we first found out about some of the issues, that we had discussed the possibilities of closing Northeast in January. We were hoping to eliminate any other cuts in staff, faculty, and so forth. And going back and forth over the last couple of months, you know, as the administration and our business directors and so forth have discussed this, we little by little get dribs and drabs of this information, and it does change as numbers come up and how we can work different things out. This proposal that, again, the board is seeing for the first time right now is something that, you know, everyone here has to understand, you know, the priorities of the district. We started this full day pre-kindergarten probably 3 years ago, going on 4 years ago. Before that, we did not have that program. We really had looked to have that program for many, many years, a full day pre-K. We often now think, well, perhaps this is why over the years we've kind of slowly but surely put ourselves back into the hole. So it's a program that is viable. It's something that definitely the children and definitely this district needs. But I want everyone here, as they've listened to the numbers, to just reflect on what it means to our other student population. So this is something we as a board have to look at very closely, and that's why I believe they were forthcoming and transparent about bringing all these numbers out to everyone. It's a very, very difficult situation that we're in, and to make this decision is going to take a little bit of thought process. As I said, this is our first time as a board looking at this, and we hope to make the right decisions as time goes on, and we encourage the public to speak up for or against these different projects and programs. Thank you.
Mr. Leon?
So, taking a step back, my first question is, the board was presented initially with a $3.6 million gap to cover. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that number came in June when the books were closed for last year. Is that correct? We were down $3.6 million due to last year.
Correct.
Okay. Maybe you can help explain this to me and to the community. Where did the $4.6 million that were down come from? Is that from this year alone?
That's a very good question. If you recall, when we went through the line-by-line budget, especially the summary page, you saw some increases, which is the regular increases for the 24-25 school year. And you could see that most of that cost is driven, in fact, about 3.3% of that increase alone was due to instructional program and employee benefits. We receive increases every year. This is different and apart from the increases, what happened at the end of last year. So it's because of the cost of doing business, the raises, the collective bargaining agreement, all those things were built into this year's budget. And that is what you are seeing as a reflection of the cost of instructional programs. That is the major budget driver that we went through during the first presentation.
Okay, we cannot continuously go over millions of dollars in the budget. It's not sustainable. That's number one. When we received that audit from our external auditors that clearly said that there were poor to no internal controls, meaning that the money was flowing, it's not lost, but it was going to different budget items, such as security, which was overspent, the fields and hiring people for that, and the salaries and things like that. I mean, it just kept on going, but there was no valve to shut it off. That's almost what I envision. And I almost feel like that continued into this school year. Is that not right?
I think I'll view it differently. You're talking about two different budget years. That's what you're seeing. And what the auditors were reporting was the operations as of 22-23. What we are doing now is to project all the costs, including labor, because school districts are 83% labor cost. All the collective bargaining agreements are built into this budget. You have to project increases before you can give increases. Those are the kind of things that we have tuition costs for our students. We have health insurance costs, just like it's done in private industry. We all get the increases. Those are the ones that are resulting in the increase in the 24-25 budget. And this has absolutely nothing to do with what the auditor reported at the end of 22-23.
And if I can clarify a little more, updating what what Olivia just said, the 22-23 budget process, the actuals, the auditors finalized the books in September, October of 23. Okay. The budget for 23-24 was adopted and approved in May of 24. So the 23, sorry. So the process in terms of timing is the district did not know or had full knowledge of what the final numbers would have been in 22-23 when they did the 23-24 budget. Now we're talking of another year, 24-25. We're still working in 23-24 estimates / actuals. So again, we're doing a budget for 24-25 where we don't know fully what's going on in terms of the final numbers in 23-24. We've had expenses come through in 23-24 going back to 22-23. So based on updated estimates in 23-24 and knowledge of actuals in 23-24, the budget for 24-25 was produced. So a number of increases that we're seeing in 23-24 is now baked into 24-25, and that's why you're seeing these increases that you've asked about.
Understood. So then the number of 3.6 wasn't completely
Mr.
accurate.
Long, just speak closer to the mic. Thank you.
So the number, the original deficit of 3.6 was not accurate because we still had bills coming in. Right,
Well, that's what the auditors have finalized the
right.
plan as.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. There were still bills trickling in from that year.
So, but right now, the information, I'm sorry, Mr. Long, do you have, keep going, go.
I mean, the only thing I want to say is that this, I mean, this is very upsetting, I've, look, I have two kids that went through Northeast School. I've been there so many times that everyone says it's the happy place. This, I just can't believe that we're at this point. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so in terms of there's two things, the $3.6 million that we addressed from 22-23, that was from the 22-23 budget that occurred. That amount came out to 3.6 as bills came in. So that when we accessed employees in the district, that was done to address that 3.6 that of the $3.6 million. Just so that's one. Now we're up to creating the budget for 24-25, and in creating the budget for 24-25, right? Based on the expenses that we have incurred in the 23-24 school year, we are anticipating that these same areas are going to go up. Now, when the budget was done previously and for 22, 23, when that budget was done and the way it was planned, they anticipated things to go up a certain way, but it went up even further than anticipated. So now when we're doing, when the 24-25 budget is being done, we're using the numbers of anticipation of what's going to go up based on what we have seen in the 23-24 year. So now the 3.6 was addressed, but now we have the 4.6 proposed. If we, in doing this budget, we've created the budget, and now we still will be down 4.6 if we don't deplete. So go ahead, Ms. Santos. Go, Ms. Santos.
My turn. Okay. Now, Mr. Piazzi. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't want to swallow it. You talked at your last presentation in regards to piercing the tax cap. You only mentioned closing Northeast. You did not mention what would be the town of Avalon and the town of Oyster Bay if we pierce the cap with everybody else back. I don't want to let go all those wonderful people. And our kids need those people that we have on the list to eliminate. I don't want to do that. I don't want to close Northeast either. So I want to know what is the amount that it would be, the way that you gave us in regards if we close Northeast. I would like to know what it would be if we also bring back everybody else. That might take you a while to-
Just for clarification, I'm not too sure what you're asking.
Okay, I'm asking that sheet on page 15 and explains to you every day in there in regards to if you close Northeast, page 15. I would like to see a page like this if we bring back everybody else also.
Wait, well, so just for clarification, Ms. Santos, you're talking about the employees in the district that were already given notification that they were going to be excess? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the new ones that we have in here now. For instance, our ENL, our, our assistant principal, our principal,
Yeah.
all these people that you have over here, it doesn't say how much it would be if we pierce the tax cap and bring those people, not let those people go.
Yes, I understand that. And this is a calculation that we have to look at very closely. But what we presented here is the exact opposite. If we should bring back all those people, that's exactly what it will cost. That is why we said if we have to bring them back, then we have to pierce the cap, and that is the cost that we will,
That's the 1.8.
and the cost and the impact on the average homeowner.
So in another word, this is the answer to my question? This,
Yes,
okay.
So,
So it's not that
I
much.
think for, I appreciate getting all the information, and as shared, we're just looking at this for tonight, but more importantly, for me, in thinking about possibly closing a building in the district, to take at least 6 months or a year to really look at all the options, all the possibilities of what that would look like if we had to close a building. But now we're down to a week and a half where we have to make a decision if we're going to do this. So in doing that, we're looking at closing the building, and I'm just saying hypothetically, if we went that direction, closing building, more people losing their jobs. And for me, my concern would be, at what point would that building be able to be reopened again? That's one. What would happen to that building if it became empty? You know, and how do we keep that building safe and secure and whatnot? So for me, that's my concerns, and that's where I'm at right now. And it's a very difficult situation to look at the fact that to keep it open, we're going to be, you know, we're going to be like whatever 4.6, whatever the number is, the total number of 4.6, if we kept everything the way that it is right now. So the hardest part is that we have not had an opportunity to look at all the options of what could happen with that building, and what, you know, just saying hypothetically, moving kindergarten back to Northeast instead of doing, moving kindergarten back from Northwest to Northeast and doing half-day pre-K and doing restructures. And so we haven't had a chance to look at all the other possible options that are out that way. And that's the hardest part, and looking at this and trying to make, for me, any type of decisions. And that's just me. I'm
President Johnson.
go ahead.
I just
Mr.
want to add on to this a little bit. So everybody understands in this room, okay? This board was not aware of any financial problems until the middle of November. We did not know that we were in the middle of this. Well, hold on. Just be quiet. I'm talking.
Mr. Heller, just make your point. Keep going, please.
Okay,
For the
so-
audience, please, I'm asking you not to call out
Just-
as a board member speaking or someone from the cabinet. Please
So
do not call out.
the-
Thank you.
The prior administration may have known some things that were going on, did not allow the board to have that information. When we're talking about, and we could go back to even our ATA reps, and they know that we were talking with them in all seriousness back in September and October about different things we wanted to do for our teachers. Obviously, we didn't have any idea of what we were about to run into, which was this brick wall, to find out we were in a financial situation as horrible as it was. So as I said, in the beginning or middle of November is the first indication. Then you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas holidays. Okay, nothing's being done basically that we're aware of in far as how we're going to do this. The first time we talked about this as a board was sometime in the end of January. And it's the first time we realized just how severe this was. And one of the first things that I spoke with Dr. Talbert about was the possibility of closing Northeast. Northeast is a $3 million project that we have each year. between custodial, security, maintenance, utilities, teachers, everything on and on and on. It's a $3 million program. The size of the program is not as large as we had anticipated it to be. We have to now look at the fact that we are going to take away from children in other parts of the district, whether it's Northwest Park Avenue, the high school, middle school, whatever, take away programs from them to continue a program at Northeast for maybe 80 children. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer of which way we have to go. The board's going to talk about it. It's going to go back and forth. But, you know, we have to face the responsibility to all the taxpayers and especially to all our children and the staff. You know, maybe we wouldn't have done some of the cuts we did in February. Okay, maybe something else could have happened, but we didn't have enough time to even work on. Okay, we've known about this shortfall for 4 months. That's it, 4.5 months. We're trying to get everything together. We're trying to find out how it happened. We're going through auditors, and as you all guys, guys know what we've been doing and hiring different, people to help us find out where it happened, how could it never happen again, and possibly who was responsible. So yeah, this is where we are. All right. And the public has to be aware of all the different, issues and problems that we're faced with as a board. We don't sit up here just to make everybody mad at us, and throw rocks at us and make comments and call us all kinds of names, which they have no idea what goes on in the background. So we're doing the best we can. A presentation was brought to you tonight. And as I said, for the first time we've even seen it. You have time to go home, reflect on it as well. And we will speak more on this, but please be patient. That's all I can tell you right now.
So one other thing, Mr. Heller, just sort of to point out, the budget presentation that was presented tonight, there's 2 components to it. One is looking at if there were reduction in administration, if there's reduction in instructional programs that add up to roughly about 1.8 million, a little bit more, right? So there's 2 components. That's one component, and the other component is looking at either closing Northeast or rehousing Northeast. So if Northeast was hypothetically closed, it's not gonna give us that complete reduction in cost for the district. So it's a combination of 2 different things that is occurring right now. Ms. Seehoff, did you have
No, the only comment that I wanted to make is I want to hear from everyone in the community tonight, because obviously we have some severe
bring it closer to you.
decisions.
bring the mic closer?
Is it ready?
Yeah, just
Is it on? We've got some serious, severe situations and decisions to make this evening. And I really think this has got to be a community decision. Even though ultimately the board can make this decision, I believe this has got to be a community decision.
And next week, we are scheduled to vote on the budget. Mrs. Hutchinson, just for clarification, we're scheduled to vote on the budget next week on April 16th. The deadline to actually vote on the approval budget, do we have until April 24th?
I don't have the timeline in front of me. I can look it up and I'll.
Just speaking to the mic.
Sorry. I don't know how to turn it on. It's on. Oh, hi. No, I will confirm the drop dead deadline for you to adopt the budget. So you have so what you're saying is that you have the vote scheduled for next week, but absolutely when you have to adopt it, I'll get that date for you.
If you could, that would be
Yeah.
helpful, only for the simple reason that this is the first time that we are looking at this, is the first time that community is hearing it. So if we were able to have feedback from the community today, and then even for next week, and then if we are able to, then we could have one more day to adopt the budget. That would be appreciated. As we move forward, and are there any other board members who have any questions? Right. Go ahead, Dr. Talbot.
I just want to reiterate and ensure that we're all aware that we're talking about 2 different situations. The $3.6 million gap came from the over expenditure from the 22-23 school year. The first round of accessing closed that gap. We are now dealing with what many other districts across Long Island are dealing with, and that is a minimal uptick of state aid. Amityville receives 1.6% increase, which equates to about $800,000 more we received this year than we received last year. When they calculate the formula, our combined wealth index is high. It's higher than Lindenhurst, it's higher than Copay, it's higher than our neighboring districts. So therefore, Amityville receives less state aid than many of our neighboring districts. So the revenue that we have, Ms. Buwanti, please guide me. I want to make sure I'm giving the right numbers, is 115 million.
Yes,
The budget that we proposed was 120 million.
that's accurate.
So there's a variance of 4.6 million that we are dealing with. It has nothing to do with the previous school year. I just want us to all have a beginning with what we're dealing with now. We are saying that we need everything that we have to educate our students. We believe that we need everything that we have. We do not have the revenue to keep all personnel, services, resources, and programs that we are presently operating. Thus, we have to decide what we can keep and cannot. Now, Ms. Olivia, the levy to levy is 3.077, am I correct?
Yes. Let me go to that slide.
Okay, that means that we can spend $1.9 million more and stay under the tax cap.
Right,
Correct.
yes.
So we can only spend $1.9 million more and remain under the tax cap. We're dealing with 4.6 million. So we have to prioritize and we have to make decisions, and we have to consider, are we piercing the cap? If what we have, is it valuable enough to pierce the cap? If it's not, then we bring the 3.077. And I do respect and understand that our board needs time to digest this. This has not been an easy process. It's been difficult. It's been difficult because we know that our students deserve more. We have been rallying with our senators, our assemblywoman. We have been making them very aware of the needs of our school district. We need additional revenue in Amityville to run the quality of programs that we need. I just wanted to clarify that to make sure that we all know that we're not dealing with a deficit right now. We're dealing with revenue and we're dealing with appropriations for a budget, and there's a variance in between.
And just for clarification, so if we went forward hypothetically and did nothing, and we did this, and we did the budget, right? Then we would be then next year, we would be in a deficit because we would not have that revenue to pay for the expenses. And a question that came up last week in regards to looking at line by line for certain items on the budget. And it was tallied up and came up to roughly about $17,000 in terms of different raises. So that was a question that came up last week in regards to that. So that was that question. So any other board members have any other questions?
I have a
Go ahead.
question. If we chose to rehouse Northeast into Northwest, could we rent out Northeast to generate additional revenue?
That would certainly be the wisest thing for us to do, to generate revenue by receiving rent or leasing out space to bring in more revenue to the district, yes.
Yes, that's indeed true. And those are some of the areas that we have to start to explore. Of course, it requires us to be we have to go through all the legal requirements to make sure that our building is in the shape and form that we can lease it out. And then, of course, we'll contact our legal counsel to draft the agreement for us. So those are some of the areas. Yes, indeed, renting out a space would be a very good idea, and it could be a very good moneymaker for us.
Just go ahead, Ms.
Now,
Kurtz.
we don't want to, I mean, I don't,
Just bring your mic closer.
I don't think any of us want to close it permanently, that we're hoping and praying that we can open it up for our preschool again. So I just wanted to say that, you know, this is so difficult for all of us. All of us are stakeholders here. We have children in the district. We are paying taxes. We have grandchildren in the district, all of us. We don't want this to happen either, but this is where we are, and we're trying to find solutions. So, thank you.
And the difficulty is that you do not know when enrollment will begin to spike again. So this is something you have to keep your options open, because it's very difficult to acquire space to build a school because you need a certain square footage. And if you don't have it, you can do it. And to give up one that you already have, it's something that could cost you a lot of headache in the future.
I have another question. Is there any way we could possibly rehouse Northeast without piercing the tax cap?
At this point, my response is no.
Is
Did
there
you
any
d-
way that we can rehouse Northeast without piercing the cap?
And I said, at this point, my response is no.
Right, any
Madam
oth-
President, just
yes.
to answer your question, the last possible date you can approve the budget is May 7th. And that's because you would have to have the budget hearing on May 14th. That's the last day you can have the budget hearing, and it has to be presented 7 days before the budget hearing. So May 7th is the last possible day. That's, you know, the very last possible day.
Thank you.
Council, isn't there also a process running a campaign to pierce the cap? And I don't want anyone in this room to think that that's what I want to do.
Say that
But
again?
Isn't there a process, and what is the time frame around the process to campaign, to get out to the community for piercing the tax cap?
To campaign for
Right,
piercing?
so in other words, letting the community know.
Just giving information as
everyone, giving
opposed to
Not kidding.
campaigning is different.
Mhm.
So that would be part of the budget presentation. Just give me 1 second.
But isn't it more than just presenting the budget at a board meeting? You have to inform the entire community.
Yes, yes. I
right,
mean,
it-
it's the same process that you would utilize to inform the community about the budget period.
Right, because it has to go, it has to be mailed out, it has to be placed on the website. There's different things that has to occur.
So I'm being informed that the absolute last day to adopt the budget is the 24th, which
Oh.
has to then be presented to the community by the 7th. And then 7 days after that, the budget hearing has to occur.
Okay, I don't think my question probably wasn't clear. So the last date that we could adopt the budget, which would be April
It'd be the
24th.
24th, because then you then have to
Just kind
present
of speak
it,
close to the mic.
you then have to present it to the public by May 7th. 7 days after that, there has to be a budget hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from any other board members? Dr. Talbot, anything else from you? All right, thank you. All right, at this at this point in time, we will take community input on agenda items only. I will probably keep it to the 15 minutes. And then we will go through the agenda and then we'll do more time afterwards. And at that point, I will take community input of more questions about the budget as well. Right. Thank you.
Good evening, Wendy Canestro. I would just ask when people speak, don't interrupt them for our 3 minutes unless we have a question. As far as you not knowing, till November, the board unanimously passed a $27 million TANs, a tax anticipation note. That's a big red flag, guys, to say you didn't know you were in trouble. $27 million on September 15th, you unanimously approved. You know, when we're talking about the budget, the capital project, you pushed it, you wanted people to do it. It got approved. You took $1.5 million out of the general fund for the capital project. If you didn't push it, it wasn't a need, it wasn't necessary, you'd still have $1.5 million in the general fund. Then you had this weird meeting like 2 weeks ago about propositions. You voted not to scale back the capital project and transfer 1.5 million back into the funds, right? You said not to do that. You could have just put it on hold, even with everything they did so far, and just went back to them when we were ready. We were told that you couldn't use the 1.5 million. I forgot what you said, but I spoke to the controller's office. He did advise you can't use it for salaries. That's correct, but you could have used it for anything else. You could have used it to pay down your debt or to pay your bills. You're saying that you knew January about talking about Northeast. The state advises if you're considering closing a building, you should have formed a committee, including stakeholders, including community members, to discuss the ramifications, the possibilities. And because sometimes closing a building, you might have to fix things or repairs may be too great to rent it out or something. When you presented this, it's super strange. You didn't even discuss what a revenue might be. You want to close something, but what's the benefit? The benefit might be to rent it out. I understand you might want to bring it back, but it's like weird to present and not say a benefit of it, right? It's like a really, really bleak picture. I guess the raises for the superintendent and central administration are still in the budget because nobody brought that up. The other thing is piercing the tax cap. You want to double my taxes? Like what? The 22-23, you went over by 3.6 million. Let's call it like it is. Like the auditors said, it was bad budgeting, overspending. If you didn't make mistakes, that wouldn't have happened. Your mistakes are on the back of children, on the back of staff, and now on the back of the taxpayers hitting our wallets. The one thing that wasn't discussed, you have an $8.2 million energy performance contract. There is $1 million in the budget between a payment and principal, $1 million. It's 8.2 million. You have 30 days that you can terminate that contract if you give notice. Why aren't we discussing that? Why aren't you terminating the contract? Why aren't we looking to take that $1 million out? And that I'd like an answer to.
So thank you for your question. Your time is up and I miss Dr. Talbot. Dr. Talbot, do you have an answer to the question in regards to the energy contract?
No, I'll defer to Ms. Buatsi.
We had a contract that was signed about 2 years ago with Honeywell, and we were required to honor that contract. So that is the reason why we still have the energy performance contract in the budget.
But there's a clause that says that you
Excuse
could
me, Miss,
terminate with
excuse me,
30
Ms.
days.
Canestro, let her finish her response, just like, no, she wasn't finished.
Are you
Keep
done?
going. Keep going, Ms.
Sorry, Libby, go ahead.
Let her finish. Thank you.
No,
Ms.
so-
Ms. Buatsi, please just speak
Yeah.
into the mic. Thank you.
Yes, so I hear you. This is something that we discuss at length over multiple, meetings. And that is how we ended that we had to honor the contract that we had signed with Honeywell at that time.
Right, because for the contract with Honeywell, that if we came out of the contract, we would have been sued by Honeywell. So we had to continue on with that particular contract.
But there is a clause I read the contract. It says 30 days notification to terminate it at any time.
We were past that point. We had to continue on with the contract.
Okay, I read the contract, but okay.
So
And,
thank
and
you.
can I
Ms.
just say one thing? None of these presentations are online. None of the budget presentations are online. I mean, for transparency's sake, don't you think they should be online?
So I'll put them up. I'll have them put them up. Thank you. The next
Okay.
person, thank you.
Also, why was there a trustee not in executive session?
Ms. Canestro, your time is up.
Sure.
Thank you.
Nakia Wolf, 100 Avalon Court. This evening, when I first came up and when I was sitting and listening, there were some things that were extremely problematic for me. We understand that it is that we need a budget and we need a budget to pass because I can't lose any more teachers, plain and simple. Closing a building where it is that we're going to lose that many staff, we're losing teachers, we're losing administrators at a rate that we're not going to be able to bring them back from. The answer is, and I'm glad that someone actually brought it up, I wish that that was part of the initial presentation when we were talking about why it is that we would need to potentially either pierce the cap or add more money to it. It would have been nice if you would have been able to tell the community a couple of things. Number one, what would be the benefits other than the doom and gloom? What is your plan? What is your plan in piercing the cap? What is that going to result in? Right? Is that going to result in eventually bringing teachers back and other staff, necessary staff? Is piercing the cap going to eventually end up allowing you to negotiate those contracts that are going to get people coming back when you're in better fiscal shape? Is that going to get the district back in better fiscal shape? None of those things were actually discussed or spoken about. The other part is that if you're reading the room, there is a complete lack of trust. And this is just me letting you know that's the situation. You have people who want to be able to support you because of what it is that we need, but it makes it very difficult. One of the questions that were asked was about the $3.6 million and how is it was just last month where it is that a community member asked what was going to be the impact of those individuals who were excessed. And it was not said that it was going to alleviate the 3.6, that those individuals who are going to be excess, since it's not going to take place until next year, would be not a savings for this year, but that's for next year. So which one is it? Is it helping the 3.6? Did it help the 3.6? Or is that for next year? Because that means that you have staff that it is that you wouldn't have budgeted for because they're no longer going to be here. So there is a disconnect in terms of communication, in terms of what's going on and the information that it is that people are receiving. So how did accessing all of those positions help us? What was the dollar amount? If it was $4.6 million, then that should be the 3.6 from whatever it is that we closed the gap last year, and then that should still leave us with over $1 million, which should have brought that down by 1.6 or however much money. So there are a lot of different pieces that it is that are not being answered, and we need to have answers to those questions. We need to keep our staff. We can't close any more buildings and lose any more teachers and administrators.
Thank you.
Good evening, Frank O'Brien, 684 Bohemia Parkway. We, the ATA, stand committed to our goal, educating the children of this district. We stand in support of student achievement. We also stand in support of a budget that will move this district forward, that will help the district recover from this crisis. We, the ATA, are willing to do our part, as evidenced by our proposals, which hopefully you have received and are seriously considering. To build trust in this budget, full transparency is required. Now, sitting in a room, plotting on paper a budget, while necessary, lacks the human connection. These decisions affect people's lives, not just the teachers, but support staff, parents, and most of all, students. There's no amount of money you can assign on a spreadsheet to our members. Salaries, yes. Benefits, health insurance, of course. But that human interaction in the classroom, on the sports field, in the hallway between a teacher and a student, priceless. The time to address this crisis is now, not with a week's notice, but long-term. If we are to stop the mass exodus of teachers who are one of your most valuable resources, between the accessing and those who have left the district since August of 2022, 75 positions, 75 people. Again, these losses are, again, something you truly can't assign a dollar value to. The ATA are focused to support a budget that will support student achievement, retain teachers and staff, is transparent in nature, and understandable to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Margaret Shuff, Amityville. President Johnson, did you answer my email that I sent you this week?
No, but I did state earlier that the amount came up to $17,000, $17,081 roughly.
So the incidentals that are in the budget only amounted to $17,000.
When I looked at, yes, because if I
You said
understood,
they're lined, but we may
No,
not take them kind of
if I
thing.
understood your question correctly, just pause the clock for me. You were talking about the salaries for the cabinet, so the increase in salaries for the
It
cabinet.
wasn't just that. That was a line item that prompted my question asking, there was a $5,100 raise for Superintendent Talbot. And you said, well, it's in there, but we may not take it. So that prompted me to say, how many things are these line items are in there, but we may not take them. So I asked you if you could tally up all those in theirs, but we may not take them.
All right,
And what
so
did that amount to? Not
the-
just raises. I'm talking about everything, line items that are listed in the budget that you may not pull.
All right, so just kind of pause the clock. So that's my error. I misunderstood your question. I went and actually went back and I listened to the audio as well. I thought you were referring to just the raises. So that's something that I definitely will get back to you on.
My email was succinct and clear.
No, I'll show you the email.
You'll show me my email?
Yeah, and I did
Refer
respond.
to my own email.
No, I was gonna say, I did respond back to your email, but it bounced back on me.
That's why I asked you if you answered me, because I had an issue with my
Yeah,
email.
yep.
That said, and my other question was, one of the trustees, I'll not mention by names because we're not supposed to do that. But all of a sudden, it's like they couldn't anticipate the problems that we're in. I mean, they just couldn't believe it that all of a sudden we're in the hole. But if you can recall for the last couple of years, us sitting at the podium going, why are you spending $39,000 on a conference that you already did last year? Why are you doing that? Why are you sending kids on this, that, and the other thing? Or mostly the teacher conferences that were just duplicative and supposed to be turnkey, but yet you went over and over and you kept spending money that way. So that's why some of the things are in the hole. And every agenda has a treasurer's report. So I'm thinking if you went once a month and went to the public and said, these are the bills that we've paid, this is what we're doing, this is what we have. It's a simple left and right column situation. This is what came in, this is what we paid, this is what we have a balance. Then maybe you wouldn't be so shocked at the hole you're in. And every time we talk about the budget, so now we have a new driver, evidently. So it was the special ed, it was the charter school, it was the influx of migrants, and now the pre-K is the driver for the whole.
No.
And you're all doing the best you can do, but it is so far not good enough. And you should all be really thinking hard about what you do and how you do it, because you really need to get other people in here. They're gonna get the job done. And I'm gonna be sending you all a case of toilet paper because you're really in the shitter.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely want all input from the community. I'm trying to make sure that my board is respectful to the community. I'm just asking when you come to the mic that you be respectful to us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Juliette All, and I'm a Amityville resident. I am a parent of 2 boys in the Amityville School District, a current first grader and an incoming kindergartner.
Just pause for 1 second. I was gonna say, yeah, pick the mic up because you can take it out. Yeah, you can take it out if you want.
A current first grader and an incoming kindergartner. I have lived in this community for the last 20 years and work in public education myself. Their father is a lifelong resident and alumni of Amityville schools. We have always felt proud to live in and contribute to this community. Sadly, I can no longer say that sentiment is fully true. I stand here tonight with a very heavy heart. We are a family who relies on the Amityville school system and the special education services they provide to educate my kids. Without the staff and supports my children receive, they would not be the same happy, thriving boys they are today. One of my sons is in a 12-1-1 self-contained first grade classroom at Northwest Elementary, where he is beyond supported by the wonderful team who work with him. He is smart and silly and compassionate, and his smile lights up a room. He has made leaps and bounds in his development the last 2 years, some milestones that I didn't know when or if would happen. Thanks to his amazing teachers and the support staff who provide him with additional services, he continues to show the world that the sky is the limit for him, with consistency and the right supports in place. His teacher has gone above and beyond to identify how my son learns and what will help him access the curriculum. She is in tune with who he is as a person, as a learner, and makes sure his needs are met, including socially and emotionally. Today, my son is reading, writing, doing math problems, and loves going to school. To think about the possibility of him going into a larger class size, losing teachers, paraprofessionals, and other faculty and staff, as well as the backwards movement and inconsistency this district is currently displaying, is terrifying and heartbreaking. He relies on the expertise of these wonderful people on his team, the small class size, and the supportive environment to continue to develop and learn and be happy. Closing Northeast, taking away, moving around, and adding to class sizes is beyond detrimental to the growth he has made and continues to make, and is absolutely unacceptable. The ripple effect these changes have are beyond measure. The mismanagement of funds, failures, shortcomings, unfortunate circumstances, and things this community has been told were unpredictable, unforeseen, or out of our control are not the responsibility of my beautiful boys, the beautiful children of Amityville, nor is it that of the taxpayers.
Keep going.
Getting up here tonight and sharing about my personal family is also a very vulnerable and emotional experience. Respecting my family and our privacy as a whole and individually is something I value deeply. But the state our school district is currently in and the impact this has on our children has left me with no choice. As a loving mother and community member, here I am. I am sad, disappointed, and losing sleep at night, genuinely worried for my children and the children of Amityville.
So what we're gonna do is I'll take one more person right now. We'll do the agenda, and then the 3 people that are there will come back, and you'll be the first 3 people. No, Mrs. McQuillan will be the last one, and then I will do the agenda, and then after I do the agenda, I will come back and I will take, excuse me, if you're gonna speak out, you know what, then, excuse me, please don't talk to me that way. Do not talk to me, because we do not have to take community input. We take community input because we want to hear it. So at this point in time, I have one person at the mic. What's going to happen is, as soon as she is finished, we will go through the agenda. And once the agenda is done, then everyone else will be able to come back. So let her go. So let her go.
Thank you. This is how y'all want to handle it. Then we'll handle it this way.
So if she,
We handle it this way. She
if
said she
you
don't wanna
go,
speak.
if you go, then you'll come back.
That's what she- that's what she said.
If you go, then
Hold
she
on.
will come back.
Let me say this.
So no, let me say this, just as I have asked my board,
You can ask
just as I've
whatever you
asked my
wanna
board to
ask.
be respectful, I'm asking you to be respectful. So you have your time at the mic right now. Go ahead.
as respectful as I can,
Thank you.
but you are disrespectful.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Go ahead.
The things that you said, I came in here with a whole different agenda when I came in here to speak.
Mhm.
And every time I come in here, y'all tell me something else. I'm happy that you spoke. I'm happy you spoke. And everybody that spoke, I'm happy you spoke. I've been waiting for you to speak, for you to say something, for you to separate yourself from the herd, because I don't understand who's running this, the board or the super. If they got you here to run it, let you run it. Because the things that's happening is happening because it's your fault. Not out here, it's your fault. The community is supposed to back you. If we don't know nothing about you, how do we back you? It makes no sense. We come up here and sit here for 3 hours for her to tell me the same thing. The same thing that you said today, because you spoke and you spoke, you answered the question, I think. Because I still don't know where the money is. Whether the money was in this budget or the last budget or the budget before and it's picked up in here, it should have been picked up. That's what I asked you before about the audit. I came in here to ask about the forensic audit. Did that happen? That was what I was going to ask, and I was going to sit down. That's what I was going to do. But then when I sat up there and I listened to this chaos, you mean to tell me y'all understood what they was talking about? Because I have no idea what you was talking about. So I'm sitting and I'm scratching my head. What are they talking about? And every time I come in, that's why I got upset, because I'm sitting here for 3 hours to get up here and I still don't know what you're talking about. I still don't know where the money is. So the question that I'm asking you, did they do the audit?
The forensic audit is in place right now. It was approved and they are supposed to give us, we told them that we needed a response for the forensic audit by April 30th. So it is in place.
So you knew that before at the last meeting, and you didn't say that at the last meeting?
We did speak about it at the last
You
meeting.
did? 'Cause
Yes,
I didn't hear it.
yeah. we
Because I
did.
wouldn't have been here. I would have waited for that. Because now you're telling me you know where the money went, but before you said you didn't. The same thing you said before, that it was a separate budget, which I'm glad you spoke and you said what you said. But now you're saying that it was a part. What I was asking you for you to tell me was the 3.6 went to here, here, or here. In 3 meetings, I sat in here for 3 hours and you didn't tell me that. Come back the next one, I come back the next one, tell me the same thing. Now today, you explained to me that that money got absorbed into the budget, from the prior budget into this one, correct? That's what you said, right?
No, I want the business officials can clarify exactly how that process works.
Right.
I'm stating that actions were taken to close that gap. And now we are moving on to this budget for 24-25. And that we have a variance of 4.6. And we would love to keep everything that's in the budget that we have. But the reality of that is if we do, then we would be asking the community to pierce the cap.
Right. You answered that question. She did not. That's all she had to tell me the last time. But she didn't. You mean to tell me y'all sat in here and did all of this budgeting and talking and she couldn't tell me what you told me? If you would have spoke last time, we wouldn't have had this problem. That's all I'm saying. This is the first meeting that I come to outside of you speaking that everybody else spoke. I got a kind of idea of you, because I really was going to come in here and set you on fire. I really was, but you spoke and it changed my mind. You spoke. That's what I need to hear. Every time I get in here, I hear Ms. Johnson talk. I hear Ms. Johnson tell me what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do. Like I said to you before, you all work for us. We don't work for you. And when we come in here and we ask questions, I understand people ask questions and we go too far and you really never answer the question. To me, you had your mind already made up. Already made up. We got 47 people that lives you all changed. But yet and still, you sit here with the mistake. If you had a business and you misplaced 3.6 million, you would not be sitting in that seat. Now, to be respectful, I didn't light nobody on fire like I wanted to. What I'm going to, when we get to that next meeting and you come here and you tell me y'all don't know where this money at, it's going to be flames all across here. I'm just want to let you know that. Because, hold on, before you say anything else, these people sit here, and I know they're in the same space I am, they're just not saying it. I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but I do know how to come up with a resolution for what's happening. So I've given you the opportunity to do what you need to do. And if it don't get done by the 30th, I'm gonna put my plan into play. Because this don't make no sense. I just said I don't want to light nobody on fire. I don't want to point no
So,
fingers at being respectful.
All right, so thank you. So at this point in time, the remaining two people, we're gonna go through the agenda and you can stay right there. Mr. Egan, you can stay there because the agenda's gonna go quick and then we can have community input again, all right? All right, so at this point in time, I'm gonna go through the agenda items and then we'll go from there. I'm not too sure, the agenda that you have for agenda item 2C1, that's something that has been added. It's a resolution, a stipulation of a settlement. Resolved upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the stipulation of settlement and general release between the district and parents of the student listed in confidential A as more fully discussed in executive session, and authorizes the President of the Board of Education to execute said stipulation of settlement and general release on behalf of the board. This is an item that is being added to the agenda. Can I have a motion can I have a motion to amend the agenda? Actually, no, it's
No,
already
you
on
don't
our
have to.
agenda. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2C1, please?
So move.
Jeanette Santos is first, Dave Hella is second, and once again, it's a stipulation of settlement, and the resolution is resolved upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the stipulation of settlement and general release between the district and the parents of the student listed in confidential A as more fully discussed in executive session, and authorizes the President of the Board of Education to execute said stipulation of settlement and general release on behalf of the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3B1 and 2, please? Leslie Kretz is first.
Second.
Carol Seehoff is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3C1 through E, please?
So moved.
Second.
Carol Seehoff is first. Dave Hella is second. So, legal, all the contracts have been reviewed? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve agenda item 3C1A through E, please? Can I have a motion to approve? So moved, yes? Okay. All those, 6-0. Okay, yeah, I did. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3C2 and 3? Can I do those two together?
Yes.
So,
Second.
Leslie Kretz is first, Jeanette Santos is second. Any questions about these two agenda items? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Aye, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3D1, please?
So move.
Jeanette Santos is first. Dave Hella is second. Any questions regarding this agenda item? Any questions regarding this agenda item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3E1, please?
So moved.
Carol Seoff is first, Leslie Kretz is second. Any questions regarding this agenda item?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Right. Now we can go back to community input. We will take agenda and non-agenda items.
Before you start my time, I just want to say that when I'm at home looking at the agenda and knowing what's coming up, I plan my 3 minutes and I plan my 3 minutes and I plan my other 3 minutes. And because at a budget hearing, you decide not to take all input, I lose 3 minutes. That's not correct. That's, I've sat on a Board of Ed for 3 terms. You
I'm
never
taking
cut the-
all questions. I'm
you
taking all
never-
questions.
But you'd only given me 3 minutes. And you can start it now, I'm sorry. So today we saw a couple of things happen that were just took your breath away. Having been a board member, I know how things work. First, we're told the 3.6 million, today we were told, was due to sloppy bookkeeping. And the 4.6 is the cost of doing business. I had a paper to show you of what Riverhead does, what it releases to the public monthly. Other districts do it too. And I wanted to go through it, but I don't have time. You guys have known about a lot of stuff for a very long time. And to say that you're just finding out tonight about changing the course of education for children, I just found out tonight, we have to vote on by next week. That's not acceptable. When I heard, now in 2004, when I first ran for school board, I'm not running, by the way. I have no intention. Somebody said from the dais, pre-K is a luxury we can no longer afford. Oh, I had 3 young children ready to go into pre-K over the next few years. I did a campaign that was, I brought 800 to 900 people to each board meeting. It's the first time I ever publicly spoke. And that's how I started in what you guys do, because you're passionate, not about your children. You're passionate about every child that's on the field at Little League or in the classroom, or you pass on the street. You take away pre-K, you're not going to be able to put 12 more years of foundation on top of it. Pre-K is one of the most important early grades that a child is exposed to even think, well, it's a luxury, I can't hurt the taxpayers. You don't hurt the child. You don't hurt the child. Pre-K, in this day and age, you close a school in a section of the community, why don't you just put a big blight mark on it? You know what that's going to do to a community where maybe parents don't have cars and they walk there, play in the playground? Do you know what it does to property values? The state ed department has rules regarding this. You don't get to make the decision in a week and a half. You can only do that under the condition of an emergency. And I'm sure that legal will correct me or correct you later and tell you I was wrong. But under an emergency, you can make a decision without the community. Your incompetence doesn't constitute an emergency. I'm sorry. And I don't normally talk like that. So what do you have to do? You have to appoint the community. Where are the demographic studies, the attendance, history, projected? You can't just close a building and open it up in a few years. If anybody knows about facilities, there should be somebody there that does. The building's going to fall into disrepair, even if it's for a year or two. You just don't close a building and say, we're going to open it up in a few years. It doesn't happen. So I didn't get my whole minutes, but I really wish you would just, again, I'm very passionate right now. I don't have children in the district. I'm a grandmother now, but I care. I care about the kids walking by my house. I care about kids that I see at the parks. There are people that do care. Don't do that to that community. Don't do it to the children. You got to find out how to do it better.
Well, Ken Egan, 63 Forest Place. One or two things I wanted to bring up. Intramural sports and eliminating clubs. If a budget gets passed and it goes through, what are the chances those clubs actually do get stopped halfway through, or some of those clubs? And just the numbers seem very, like $100,000 to limit, or for the clubs or eliminating clubs. That seems like a very round number. So I was curious if you guys had any input on where that number comes from, or whether that was all the departments got together and gave their best estimate.
Dr. Talbot, I'm going to pass this to you.
Sure. Thank you for your question. And clubs are very important to the Amityville School District and to our students. We have been in conversations with our teachers union around restructuring the clubs, defining them a little more in terms of duration and the stipends that are really due to the advisors. And so that figure came out of some of that projection, but those meetings are still underway.
Okay.
We do want clubs to continue, and we're earnestly seeking grant opportunities to ensure that our students, well, to put every effort forward.
Right.
To ensure they will have clubs.
Okay. Something that keeps getting brought up that I don't know anything about. I'm in a neophyte with this. Going through the tax cap, what's the actual net response when that happens? I mean, how many houses and how many people to be paying taxes, and what's the actual amount that's brought back in? Because I keep hearing it said, but I don't know what the actual number is, and how does that impact our actual taxes, and everybody have a guess?
Did you receive?
I took one from somebody else.
Okay, so Ms. Buati can direct you on
I
this
also came in
spreadsheet.
late, so I could speak to you after, if you've already, okay.
Okay.
And the last thing, I'd spoken with you at the end of last meeting, and this is more of a concept. Is there any way to change how these meetings are structured, where you can bring something up to us on, say, a Wednesday night? We can all have our input in a much more, I don't know, efficient manner, a little more optimistic manner. And then you can vote on it in earlier the next week, and then present us what you guys decide on. Any way to flip your meetings around so you can get input without getting hammered week after week? Is that maybe an open concept we could discuss at some point? I think it would help get the whole community aware of what you're deciding on, and get maybe some really good input compared to just, getting judged and challenged. Just a concept maybe we can all discuss at some point.
Thank you for that.
Frank Crothers, 25 Town Street. Interesting commentary from board members. Tonight, we've had board members ask for patience. We've had some pretend that they care. We've asked for transparency was a comment. And then another board member basically asking for an open check to continue with a budget. So let's break it down to real numbers, right? The average person, taxpayer, is not getting a 3% salary increase from their job today. You're certainly not getting a 5.8 salary increase.
Just be closer to the mic, because if you don't, just speak,
Sure,
pause
I
for a
said-
second, just speak, because what happens if people at home can't hear you, so that's. if you-
Fantastic.
Thank
We
you.
good? Okay. So let's get back. The average person who lives in town is not getting a 3.8% salary increase. They're certainly not getting a 5.8 salary increase. If we are to look at piercing the cap, as one board member said, with a blank check, that basically goes from $620 per person per year to almost double, because you want to just pay for everything. You failed budgeting. And can I ask, who put this together?
It was done by the team.
By the team. So this is
By
back
the-
of
by
the
the
napkin.
cabinet,
This
yeah.
is like back of the napkin type math, right? You're pretending that none of this is real numbers. You're guesstimating on things, correct?
Dr. Talbot, I'll pass it over to you. 'Cause
Some of the numbers are best guesstimates. So for example,
No,
there-
that's all I need. Some are and some aren't.
well, I
correct?
want to
But no, you don't-
clarify and
that's- no,
explain it.
That's the answer I needed.
No,
I
it's
have another
not the
question.
answer that you need, because you want to take a portion of what I said.
No, you just
But
said
what I have
some
to
are
say
and some
is
aren't.
in totality. I want to offer you an example so that you will better understand what you're reading. So for example, if a teacher who is making $95,000 is accessed from Northeast, then the replacing teacher would not be $95,000. And so that's why some of the guesstimates may be on another teacher who's going to
But
take
you're
that
not
place.
replacing them, you're removing them.
Well, based on seniority, there's an excess
Let's get back to the
process.
budget question.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
so
Go ahead.
it's fuzzy math right now, right? And the 4.6 isn't a real number, correct? Because that could go up, correct? Yes or no? That could go up?
If the
That
four-
could go to 5 million, correct?
No, whatever
not?
the approved voters' budget is what we have to spend.
But you said you still have things coming in, correct? So you're not uncertain on a complete budget.
Would the business officials like to elaborate
I
a
think
little
that
to
answers the
clarify?
question. One last question. We had a board member absent during executive session. Isn't that a derelict of duty? Thank you.
Andrea DG 24 Ira Court. I just wanted to tap in and basically, speak about the fiscal. When we get that, we could kind of really get a transparent thing. And I'm really more so for to see how we can make it work, like the brother said that came before, to see how, you know, the community could tap in with these things and kind of make them better. I'm a lifelong Amityville resident. I'm an Amityville alumni. I'm completely against Northeast School going away. I have a nephew there that loves that school. I see the progress that it does with him. His teacher's name is Mr. Babington. He loves him. He speaks about him. Yeah. He speaks about him just like he speaks about us at home. And I'm a product of Amityville. I went to Northeast. Mr. Hackett was my principal. Miss Helfstein was my teacher. So it's just it's more of a monument to the community, man. I pass that every day in the process of going to work, just doing different things in the community. So I just think right now what we're seeing here is this Amityville pride. You're seeing a lot of concerned community members. It's a lot going on and we don't really have answers. And I just think as a community together with the board, the superintendents and everybody, we could come together and, you know, just get better results and get better outcomes of these things. I appreciate you guys for your time. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Madeline Quintine McConney. 251 Erlanger Boulevard, North Babylon. Long time Amityville alumni. I love you guys, and I want things to work. I want things to move in a direction that we can all be happy with. And I love this board and I applaud you. And I know that y'all are doing the best that y'all can do. I know you are. And I know you love this district as much as I love this district. I came from here, my children came here, my niece is still in high school. She's graduating this year. My children came out of the school, my brothers, my sisters, my mother sat on this board when she was here. God rest her soul, and she passed in 22. And I'm telling you that y'all have to stand the course. Do not let and sweat the stuff. You can do this. And you can keep on laughing until it hurts. Okay? All right. Just
So,
keep on
Ms.,
laughing.
excuse me, just you have to
Yeah.
address the board and not the
Yeah.
audience. Thank
All
you.
right, and tell the audience not to address me. I am a lifelong living, advocate for this community. Northeast School is not an option to mess with. And I'm hoping and praying that all will go well. I'm rooting for y'all. I really am. And I'm going to stay steadfast with that. Because we need to come together as a community all over. They need to come together, come with solutions and answers to help. So if anything that we can do to help you, then please talk with us. We're going to have a community meeting on Friday at Bishop Willie's Church, and we meet on Great Neck Road, and we want to hear from you. The community is going to be there, and we want to hear from you. It is important that we try to do this and get all the dynamics together. I know y'all been through a lot, and you're going through a lot, but you got to stay steadfast and strong as a board. And I commend you for all of the things that have been hurled at you. I commend you. Please just stay steadfast. Keep continuing to do the work and stay steadfast. I love you all. God bless.
Hi, Faith Robinson, 21 Town Street. I'm a lifelong advocate as well for the school district. I went here since pre-K in Northeast, and my kids all go here. I have 5 of them, and I actually live in the town. So Northeast has operated for over 30 years as a half-day pre-K. I went there. I think a lot of people who have been lifelong community members have gone there as well. And I don't think increasing it to full day put the budget over millions of dollars. The building has always been there. In fact, I think now we use less of the building since pre-K enrollment has dropped. So I don't know if we can blame that for the overspend of the budget. But I agree with a lot of the community. I don't think pre-K should be eliminated. It's proven to be beneficial in preparing kids for kindergarten and beyond. And I know with my last kid coming into pre-K for the next school year, 25-26, I would be devastated if we didn't have that program, which all my other kids went through. I think it's also not fair to say that if we keep Northeast operating, we have to pierce the tax cap. I think the right way to word that is if administration can't collectively figure out how to come up with the $4 million that is planned to overspend, then we would be forced to close Northeast and eliminate more of our precious teachers. And so again, we're finding cuts that directly affect our children's education in a negative way. And I don't think that's the way we should be going about this. I also, Carol Seehoff had said, you know, was there another option if we rehouse Northeast into Northwest? Could we not pierce the tax cap? And I think other community members brought up some other options, like taking the money out of the capital fund, because we're saying if we move Northeast to Northwest, we still have to find $892,000. Well, if we take the $1 million out of the capital fund, that would cover that, and we could still keep pre-K and restructure what we have to and still save some money. Or we could take the $1 million from the energy contract, but I know that was talked about, and maybe that's not an option anymore. I think that Dr. Talbert's statement is correct. We need everything that we have to educate our children, but it feels like you keep taking it away. And I know from personal experiences, some of my kids in the higher grades don't enjoy going to school here. They would rather be somewhere else. It is directly affecting their day-to-day education. And the more we lose teachers and the more they lose staff that they entrust in and they go to, the more and more they don't want to be in the school setting. So I think that if we keep eliminating all of these programs that actually make a difference in their education, in their college acceptances, like the foreign language and the AP classes, they're losing value here every day in their education. And I just feel like every time we come to these meetings, it just sounds worse and worse for them and their future. So I think that there needs to be more work done on how we can save our children's education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Megan Messman, Amityville. A lot of my questions and comments have been already addressed by other community members, so I'm grateful for that. I do have other more detailed questions about the deductions that are presented and specifically, but I'm not gonna get into that now. It's so late, everyone is tired. But there was a comment that you started to talk about closing Northeast in January. Was there truth in that comment?
Dr. Talbot, can you answer that question, please?
For quite some time, I don't know if January was the marker, but we have been discussing the budget and exploring options for quite some time. So there was some preliminary discussions and nothing definitive about Northeast.
So you have known for quite some time that you had to make up $4.6 million, and you just told us last week in a meeting that wasn't even advertised as a budget meeting that you need to make up $4.6 million.
Dr. Talbot.
When we began our budget process, we made it known at that time what the proposed budget was. And those budget meetings, Ms. Boazzi may have started, I'm not sure of the dates, Ms. Messman, I'm not sure of the dates. But last week was not the first time that it was mentioned.
It was the first time that $4.6 million was mentioned. The past presentations had been focused on expenditures, You never talked about your revenues, and you never said you had a $4.6 million difference between your expenditures and your revenues. Now, on February 14th, and I asked you last week too, on February 14th, you claimed that you wanted community input, and Ms. Seehoff is claiming that she wants community input. This is not the forum for community input. We're throwing noodles at the wall, trying to give you our thoughts at like whatever time it is right now. What is the plan to get the community input? Besides the church meeting that we're not all invited to.
Everyone's invited to that meeting, so this is not just a single meeting. It's a community meeting. Every year.
I would like, but could you please tell me what the schedule is going forward to getting a budget that we're gonna vote on, and how you are going to get proper community input?
So the board is looking at extending the approval process of approving the budget, but that is to be determined. We've discussed a number of avenues. Mr. Frazier came in and we talked about securing a budget committee. There have been exploratory conversations to move forward, getting community input. We have a very short amount of time left. Our most recent conversations have been toward establishing a budget committee to walk with us through next year in terms of the 24-25 budget. But we're always here to take whatever input you can give us at this point. We've not yet pulled together a formal process, Ms. Messman, to answer your question, but we are available to take your input at any time.
Ms. Messman, I also just wanted to clarify, when I said that, I didn't say it lightly. When Mr. Frazier was hired, part of his responsibilities is to very soon get community input, community meetings going, especially now with this going on. So I didn't say that lightly. I do mean that we need community input with this. And I am expecting Mr. Frazier and our cabinet to make sure that those meetings are available to the community as soon as possible.
Mr. Frazier has been on board for some time now, 2 months. February 14th, you said, the superintendent, you said that you wanted to have a community discussion about how to approach 2024, 2025.
And we
You didn't
realize-
set it up.
And we realize that, and that is why now this board is demanding, charging our cabinet to set up meetings so the community has a voice as soon as possible.
So when, again, when? Right? It's April 10th.
So just let them know about, let them know.
So Ms. Messman, we will have to get the dates out to you. We can't give them to you at this time because we don't have them at this time.
But there's one on Friday that's open to the.
There is one on Friday
What is this
that is
Friday?
open
What,
to the public.
you can't possibly all congregate. Is that a board meeting at the church on Friday?
We received the notice, just like many other community people did.
Okay, that doesn't sound to be in line with what New York State directs you guys to operate under. Did you decide if you were gonna do a special election to postpone the capital project? Because we missed the deadline to postpone the capital project and have the voters vote to move the money back into the operating budget.
So that when we met on March 26th, the vote that took place was that we were not going to put that on the proposition. We were not going to take the money that came from the capital reserves that went to the capital project that was not going to go back. And we were not going to and the other one was to take the money that was in the general fund that went to the capital projects and move back. So that was just that one scenario. So decision was on that one scenario, not to do that.
So that was a bad decision because you are looking at closing Northeast for $1.7 million, but you can move $1.5 million back into our budget.
It would be not 1.5, it would be 1.3 because.
Okay,
200
well,
would be moved
1.3.
back. Yes, yes.
1.3.
So the 1.3 that would move, when we spoke about it on March 26th, the 1.3 that would go back from the capital projects back to the general fund. And if I recall correctly, and then either Dr. Talbot or Ms. Bawatsi, from that, the 1.3 that would go back to the general fund that would have not brought back people that would have been excess. It would have been in the general fund. So please correct me on that. Please correct me on that.
Yes, that's correct. We could not use that money to bring back the people who were excess. We could not do that. The only thing we could use it for is to bring it back into general fund, and it goes back into fund balance.
Okay, so you're trying to cut $4.6 million in other things. Why would you not bring that money back?
In order to bring the money back, we would have to, there would have to be another vote about bringing that money back.
Okay.
So that's it.
I think the community would like to vote to bring the money back. How many times do we have to ask you? We've been asking you since February 14th to bring the money back. It's April 10th. I do have one other question.
Go ahead.
If you did decide to move northeast to northwest,
Just pause the clock. Just, she has more time because she,
thank you.
yeah, go ahead.
If you did decide to move northeast to northwest, what is the impact on the northwest class sizes?
Dr. Talbot, can I?
So if we were to rehouse northeast to northwest, there would be 6 pre-K classrooms.
Okay.
And it would not impact class sizes of K through 2 in any
So
way.
there's 6 vacancies right now, or that's because of the 47 teachers that were or staff that was excess? How are there 6 empty rooms sitting around in Northwest?
There are 6 rooms that could be utilized for pre-K, but of course, we would have to secure waivers for those classrooms to be accommodated for pre-K. So there are a number of steps that still would have to be walked out with that as well.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to encourage you to do that because it sounds like we have not done our due diligence to understand if you can even get a revenue stream off of emptying Northeast. So I'm not trying to advocate for that. I wanted to understand what the impact would be at Northwest. So thank you.
Good evening, Cheryl Quintine Best, Delaware Avenue, Amityville. I get sadder and sadder when I come here. Am I to understand that there was a hemorrhage for the 23 to 24 school year? And there's a projected one for the 24 to 25 school year. Am I correct in my understanding? Because I'm being confused. Is that a yes or a no?
No.
No?
There was a deficit for the 22-23 school year of $3.6 million. We are now working on the budget for the 24-25 school year. And we were proposing a budget of $120 million. Our revenue is 115.
So the revenues for the 2023 to 2024, am I correct? It came from this school year that's about to end. Am I correct in my understanding?
The revenue projected for the 24-25 school year is 115 million.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's correct. Do we anticipate a hemorrhage for the 25 to 26 school year? Or am I thinking too far ahead? Because I'm thinking about my child who's going to college for 4 years and I'm already projecting my budget. So I'm wondering if something similar is being done in the district so that we're not going to be surprised again. That's the question. It's a little rhetorical as well. Something was mentioned earlier that caused me to get up. An example was given. You're replacing a teacher whose annual could be around $90,000 with someone who will earn less. That's speaking dollars and cents. It is not speaking about the void that will come because you're replacing an experienced and more qualified teacher with one who is less qualified. There's a lot of implications. I know we're looking at getting the bang for the dollar, but that's not a bang for the dollar. Because you're impacting then the quality of education that students would get. That's my suggestion. I'm an educator and I would want you to consider not looking at bang for dollar, but looking at quality. We don't earn large sums of money just because we want to earn it. There's a lot that goes with that. There's a lot of experience and there's a lot of qualifications that go with it. So I want us to consider that. I care for this district. I'm not going anywhere. My children have all come through this district and benefited greatly and continue to benefit. So I'm not going to go home and never come back or, move out and this be done. So we need to save this district. And it cannot be at the expense of our pre-K students, our youngest learners. It cannot be at their expense. Closing a building, whilst you're going to save some monies, there's still a lot that has to be involved. You have to incur maintenance and security. If not, eventually that building is going to be in a lot of disrepair. Again, an expense to, or us as taxpayers. You're making me think now that I have to factor in what more I'm going to be paying as a taxpayer for the coming years, which again impacts upon my budgeting for my children's education. And I would like you to consider that it's going to affect other families in this district as well. We're not shuffling furniture, getting rid of it, replacing it, recycling it. You're talking about the lives of children. We're talking about the lives of teachers and educators and all those professionals that it takes to make this district a whole district. And I want us to bring that to the forefront every time we think about cutting here and cutting there. There's more to it than the dollar figure. And somehow I sense a disconnect sometimes. Like we just have to make this budget work. So we're going to cut, wherever we can. Please reconsider. Please reconsider. I am very saddened by the state of affairs of our school district. And we need to figure out how we can turn this around with immediacy and not at the expense of losing educators and other professionals in our district and also losing children. How can you close a pre-K, program? And one more question, again, is rhetorical.
So
Isn't you pre-K funded through New York State? Is there not a portion of the budget that goes into you pre-K? I know it happens. I know it's a large chunk of money. So I'm wondering, what has been done with that?
So we have your question, and I don't mean to be rude, but I was trying to let you go to the end of your point. So we'll answer the question, but there is money that's allocated. It's like $580,000 roughly that we get for the UP pre-K grant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I just have a couple of things to say. Being a board member is never easy. It comes in ebbs and flows. People love you, people hate you, right? That's how it goes. But you're definitely not victims here. And I think some people have portrayed you as you're the victim, or people are throwing rocks at you, or you're under attack. And I've heard these things. Here's the thing. You represent us, you're our voices, and you have to listen to us. Just the way you want a community input, you listen to us. So nobody's the victim here. And to anybody that suggested that, you probably need a civics lesson, because we have a right to address our government officials, our elected officials, question them, praise them, give our comments. And that's how democracy goes. As far as like piercing the tax cap, y'all are going to need another plan, because what happens when that fails? So you cannot depend on piercing the tax cap. Just not reasonable. I mean, if you think people are gonna say, okay, double my taxes, I can't see that happening. And the thing is that, when you pass a budget, your taxes aren't gonna go lower, they're just gonna continually go up. You need a different plan. You have a week or something, which is not great. The 4.6 was only mentioned at last week's meeting. I was here, I heard it. It was never mentioned before that. I was talking about Northeast, again, the state regulates, you're supposed to have a committee to discuss all the different things to see if it's feasible or not. That didn't happen. Again, there's no transparency with that. And I just want to shift gears for 1 second. Is the senior trip happening this year for seniors to Hershey Park?
The senior trip has been approved to move forward.
Will the seniors be going on the trip? Will the district be paying for it, or are you canceling it?
The district is not paying for a
Oh,
senior
they
trip.
pay for it themselves, so it's going to continue.
Yes, it has been approved to move
Great.
forward.
Okay, great. The next question is, we had a young man speak last week about the prom. He did an excellent job. I felt so bad for this boy. I mean, he was so articulate and he gave solutions and he came by himself, and it took such bravery. I really can't say enough. And I know that he wanted to be represented here tonight and he couldn't get anybody, and he's passionate about this prom, and he wasn't given an answer. Why? I mean, given the state that the school is in and the kids are really at this terrible point, can they bring a date outside of the district to the prom? Can you give the kids this much this year? Can they do that? I'd like an answer.
So we did appreciate Lucas's presence and his question last week. And the building administration at the high school has been working on a plan, and we will be sharing that soon.
Can you tell me
The
if the kids are,
The outcome of that is not determined just yet.
well, y'all make the decisions, right? So you're the superintendent of the schools, right? You're the CEO of the entire school district. Will you allow the children to bring outside dates? And I'm not even sure why they can't.
I will allow my administration to work through a solution that will be articulated with the students and parents
When will they know that?
as soon as it's done.
Okay, I just really want to advocate for the students right now, if that's okay. Guys, they're in a tough spot here. This is not good what's going on. If you could give them this small little piece of something to say, my prom was great. I got to bring my date, right? Aren't we all here for kids? I really, really urge you and beg you to let them have that one piece. Thank you.
Hi, Stephanie Droz. Have a lot to say. I guess
Stephanie, before you get started, for the board, the time is getting ready to end. Before she gets going, I just want to find out, are we willing to extend it for another 10 or 15, about 15 more minutes, therefore to allow everyone who's there? All right, so we'll extend it for 15 additional minutes to allow the remaining individuals to be able to speak. All right, all right. Thank you.
so. I just first want to state I understand clarifying last year and this year's budget. I think for a lot of us, we needed to hear that tonight. But I do want to say, obviously, that statement does not change the morale of the community trusting the numbers and what's going on, right? We've been to a lot of meetings to actually be able to hear a statement like that. And I think that it's very relevant that everybody here understands that we don't only need to see projected numbers, we need to see real numbers, but we need to see plans and we need to hear more input, because truly it's heartbreaking, but it's also creating a serious trust issues. I second one of the parents who just said they're losing sleep. I know that a lot of parents feel that way, not only now with the talk and the buzz of potentially closing a building, but in general already just processing the access that was just put out. Like, that feeling is still very relevant to all of us, not only the staff, but the parents and the community. My second question goes in regards to Northeast. CPSC is literally basically moving in-house and the resource at Northeast. How does the board have a plan of this impact? That age gap of 3 to 5 years old, which is a couple of meetings ago, something you guys discussed, a big expense, special education. Northeast is usually the cornerstone where parents and families are finding out that their children have special needs. This preschool classroom where they're getting their first assessment from an educator, context, and literally an academic experience is where a lot of parents are walking through hand in hand with educators and staff diagnoses. I myself, who have 3 children in the school district, have gone through that building almost 2 times already. And the CPSE, along with all the teachers, not only the special education teachers, have helped me navigate that journey. So I would like to know how the board, in considering any of those plans, especially the merge, is gonna actually respond to the parents and that community and that priceless age, as somebody mentioned, that's completely essential to development. The impacts on Northwest, we are still processing the new classroom numbers. So to think that there's gonna be littles in the building and more and more and more stress on the building and the staff that we have remaining, I would like answers to that. Somebody on this board a couple of meetings ago advised me that there would be a community committee set up. I second what Megan said earlier. I'm still waiting to hear something about that. I understand that you guys are saying you're in a time crunch and that you have a lot to work through and now you have deadlines, but that's not on our back. That was decisions and planning and things that you guys signed up for to do on this board. I think you guys can make a little time, the same way that you call emergency hearings, to make an emergency gathering for us. And I just have one more point. I have a high school student and I teach my kids to thrive, do their best, and be human beings in the community. My daughter is in AP classes. I want to know how I'm supposed to motivate her to finish and be a senior and successfully go to college and be able to represent that her family lives here in Amityville without AP classes, without the choice of all these languages. This is essential. I understand that we have to make cuts, and I know that you said that you want to keep what's best for the kids, but I think there's a lot more discussion of other things that could be done and planned before we take this away from our children. This is their future. Thank you. Thank you.
Caroline Fanning, 12 Commerce Boulevard. I need to humanize my loss too, because I'm still reeling from what I just read this afternoon. I have 2 students in the district. My son's in 7th grade, my daughter's in 9th grade. My daughter was in middle school during the pandemic, and she hit the lowest low as many children did, as many adolescents did. And what helped pull her out of it was joining the cheer team. She broke her arm in the gym floor, Park Avenue. She didn't quit. She didn't give up. She stuck with the cheer team. She's on the high school cheer team. They've been fundraising their butts off to save up for camp in Pennsylvania this summer. They want to go to nationals in Florida next winter. She came home with candy to sell to family, to friends. It's starting to feel like we have to sell candy to keep the lights on in the school buildings. She was here recently talking about how they still need teachers. Before we found out about all the recent developments that came out at 1 o'clock today, she was texting me from school. She got 100 on her math test. This is after years of us paying for a math tutor every night to help bring her up to speed. She's enrolled for AP classes for next year. There's so much that's hopeful in her future if we don't pull it out from under her. So that's what I'm trying to just deal with. Apart from that, I run a business. I've run a business for 17 years. And I always say that the people who control the money, the maps, and the schedule control everything. I've attended every board meeting since February 14th. So I'm still getting new to this, but I understand that there's always 2 meetings a month, 12 months a year. Am I right? Okay, so you have a pretty rigorous schedule. So you should be able to stay abreast of what's going on. Last May, you took out a TANS, a tax anticipation notice, AKA a payday loan, because you knew you had a cash flow issue. Anyone who takes out a payday loan is in trouble. You take it out in May, the fiscal year ends June 30th. All right, so you take a payday loan out on Friday, you get paid on Saturday. Then you took another loan out in September. So the week hasn't even started yet. The fiscal year has barely gotten going and you're already taking out loans to deal with your cash flow issue. So clearly there's a problem. You meet twice a month to talk about things. That should include problems. So to sit here tonight and to hear, well, we only just found out about this in last week, $4.6 million deficit for next year, or February 14th, or even to go as far back as I can remember you saying November 8th. I think a lot of you quote as the date that you found out things were in trouble. That's not true. If you were paying attention, if you were coming twice a month and reading the reports, which you have been given, you would have been kept abreast of what's going on.
Carolyn, let me just ask you, what came out at 1 o'clock today? What information came out at 1 o'clock that you said?
The agenda for tonight, that Northeast would be closing, potentially, that sports teams would be reduced, that AP classes would be reduced. Honestly, I get more information from Facebook than I do from the agenda because I check the night before. I do. I plan on coming to these meetings. I check your website the night before to see what's being posted. And oftentimes there's nothing until the day of. I post stuff. I'm the one behind AmityvilleSchoolVoters.org. I go to your website, find what I can, post it there so that people can know what's going on. Because we want to be involved, and being told at every meeting, we're considering how to get you involved. It's a platitude and nothing more. We need more than platitudes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Faith Robinson, 21 Town Street. I have two quick questions because I want other people to speak. Ms. Johnson, you said that universal pre-K gets like $580,000 from state funding to run. Was that taken into consideration that we would be losing that if we close Northeast? Like, is that put into the budget?
Dr. Talbot.
Ms. Robinson, the district receives a UPK grant totaling about $586,000. We are funded to serve up to 108 pre-K students.
Okay.
The district receives around a $5,400 allocation per student. The challenge that we have here, and I want to preface my comments that we do not want to close Northeast. We do not want to close Northeast. We understand the power of early childhood education. We understand that. We have a grant of $586,000. We have a building that's being operated and costing around $2.3 million to run. And so we are looking at the dollars that we have. We only have $115 million in revenue. And we can only spend $1.9 million more dollars to bring to the community a balanced budget with a tax levy of 3.07.
Yeah, I understand that. I just wanted to know, so if we reduce the pre-K program and absorb it into Northwest, we would still get that grant because it would still, it's by a number of students that would go there.
Yes, we
Okay.
would need to serve a minimum of 108 students.
Okay. And then my other question was the cost reduction plan to restructure after-school programs. It says to eliminate district-wide intramural sports. What exactly would be eliminated?
So there are intramural sports at 3 of our schools, Park, Middle School, and the high school. Those exact sports consist of, I have to kind of lean on Mr. Farkas. We kind of talked about it, but I don't want to misquote the intramural sports. Dr. Lane.
We have a host of intramural sports beginning at Park
Dr. Lang,
Avenue.
just move the mic way closer to your mouth. Yeah, we're real close. You gotta bring it real close to your mouth, else it's not heard. Keep more closer.
Closer. Yep. We have a host of intramural sports beginning at Park Avenue. We do wrestling, soccer, volleyball. We have cheerleading. There are not only the intramurals, but we also run sports, all kinds of sports through our after-school program through the Leaders of Tomorrow.
So when you're saying intramural sports, are you talking about like the after-school sports that are in part of like Leaders of Tomorrow at Park Avenue? Or are you talking about the girls flag football team or the soccer team or the football team?
No, those are our varsity and JV programs that begin in middle school and go through high school.
So these are just more of like extracurricular activity type sports?
Correct. yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Chris Nearing, 22 Cedar Street. Kind of following up what Faith was just talking about, the clubs and intramural sports. Not only are they a good building block for kids to use in their future, but certain students being in a sport and it's their motivation to get good grades to be able to play those sports or clubs. And then I was here, what, a month ago when the top 10 graduates of this year, every single one of them was in 3 to 5 clubs. So obviously they had a positive effect. So I would strongly consider that when you're evaluating whether it should be a cost reduction. And then as far as the continued threat of more teachers' jobs and all these jobs being eliminated, I'd be shocked if current teachers and staff weren't already looking for other jobs, just waiting to find it because they didn't want to be unemployed. They wanted to get a new job just to be safe. So is there any kind of thing that can be done to help the teachers that are still here to kind of feel somewhat comfortable that they have jobs?
Thank you for your comment. We do all that we can to support our present staff. We have been very transparent in terms of the impact in identifying the specific jobs or positions that could be impacted. So we want to reduce anxiety or wondering as much as possible. It's a moving piece, but when we know and it's clear, we do communicate and we keep the lines of communication open with our staff.
Because I could only imagine to some degree that the teachers that are still here are just feeling that stress and it's somehow negatively affecting them at work. Just working with what will eventually be additional kids and the threat of possibly losing their jobs. So that's it.
Thank you.
Dan Holmes, 12 Commerce Boulevard. It was mentioned before, I'm just confused on the idea that, when exactly the debt was figured out or, everybody came to understand that it existed. And it was mentioned that, it was not, it kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody understood where it happened. Maybe a prior administration had been mentioned. And I'm unclear about that because it seems like many of you have been on the school board for years. And so I understand the money flows from year to year, but to think that it suddenly just happened and it wasn't seen or foreseen, whose responsibility is that then? Did it happen with the prior administration or was it not seen by the board members? I mean, it just seems unclear because it seems like you want to be absolved of it, but it seemed then whose responsibility is it to have seen that?
So to answer your question, that's one of the reasons that we're doing the forensic audit, just to find out exactly what happened. Because that's the one thing that we're trying to find out. Like you said, most of us been here for a while.
Right.
And it's something that we did not see coming down the pike with information that we had received. So we're trying to find out exactly what happened.
But the responsibility is, just not to place blame, but that is the board's responsibility, is to monitor that flow of money through as the years go on, right?
Right, and based on the information that we had and what we were monitoring, we did not see, we did not see an issue. So based on the information that we had, and that's why we are looking, that's why we got the forensic auditor.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Dan, 27 Baby Lane.
If you want to either take the mic out or lift it up, because what happens is we can hear you, but if someone's at home, they can't hear you.
Okay. I just have a question on one of the plans. Can the district make more of an effort to go back into the books and find the necessary 800,000 needed for the possibility of rehousing Northeast? And I just have a follow-up question as well after that one.
So,
Did you say Dan? Dan?
Yes.
Yes. Could we go back and look for an additional $892,500 to rehouse the pre-K program? We have been exploring and delving deep, and we've not yet discovered it. So to answer your question, it has not been realized as of yet. It is unfortunate that with the minimal revenues that we have, the district has truly had an impact by the cuts or potential cuts discussed on tonight. And seeking another 800,000+ is an extremely difficult task.
Is it a time issue?
It's not a time issue. We need all resource and personnel that we presently have. As you've heard the feedback from the community tonight, what we're looking at is not pretty, it's not good, it's not the best thing for children. We have $115 million in revenue plus 1.9 that we can add to that. Am I correct, Ms. Buatsi? We can only add 1.9 million additional dollars to the revenue that we presently have. And that won't cover all of the expenses that we've talked about tonight.
So you said it has not made itself apparent yet, but will you continue to do so over the next couple of days in order to do that? And will that be transparent to the people making the decision?
Yes.
My second question is, in the savings that are projected in closing the building, have you calculated the cost of securing an abandoned building, including fencing, security, keeping minimal electricity and utilities on? Is that incorporated into the costs of closing the building?
Ms. Buatsi, some of that cost is incorporated on one of your slides.
Yes, that was the projected $100,000 that we incorporated into that
For the
saving.
maintenance.
Yes, for the maintenance, because we realized that would be a really something that we have to stay on top of.
And that would be per year until, if ever, the building were to reopen.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if that was the worst case scenario and the building had to be closed, we would have to expeditiously secure rentals and leases for revenue. We couldn't let the building lay dormant or vacant.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Badeau. I actually live in Amityville. That's why I'm here. I'm here because Amityville School District is very important. And I know everyone here thinks that, but working for Amityville, you have to have some type of integrity to know that this is your job. You're here for the students, but I don't feel, and it's not a feeling, it's business as usual. When you take a job, you do your best. All the kids go to school to do their best. And all I keep hearing is taking cuts from staff, from the community. We are a part of the community. We're not having any insight. You're not coming to us, asking us saying, oh, is this a good idea? Do you have anything to add? We should be included because our lives are going to be impacted. Unlike yourself, when you come to work, you're still going to have a job. Basically, this is still going to keep going. But what happened, Dr. Fail, he was here. We kept on having changes. I don't know if he basically had something to do with the deficit, but maybe we should look back into his time he was with Amityville School District. Because to me, now that you're here, Dr. Talbert, we're still having issues. I don't know if it came from him initially or from you. But it's not just you, it's everybody, because Amityville School District is together. And nobody could just say, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters. Everybody here is here for a reason. And we need to really think about going back to the drawing board and doing something different. The government, at times when there's difficult times, what they do, they say it's going to be a federal government shutdown. So maybe that's what we should do as far as people who are here making over $288,000. Maybe there should be a pay cut that can help Amityville. Because we keep on talking about the money, what are we going to do? Maybe the pay cut will help the district. That would be wise. Because I know I don't make over $200,000, but if I have a job and that's what makes sense, why not? It could be afforded. And also, when it comes to the impact of people's lives, here we are, we're just making decisions and the community is not included. We come back with these short timelines and the community should just say, yes, oh, that's a good idea. It's not. We have 1 week. Oh, I have something else to say. Go ahead. No, well, it's business as usual. I would like that to be more suggestions for Amityville to have impact. To have insight, to give suggestions, and we be able to either say yes, that makes sense, or no. And especially when it comes to everyone who works here for Amityville School District, they should decide on helping out the district because you still work for them. After this is all said and done, you're still going to have a job. But do you care about Amityville School District? You just work for them. They give you your paycheck. So maybe you could look at your paycheck and say, you know what? Let me help the district. I'm done. Thank you.
Hey, guys, James Jambroni, Amityville. I think the audience just needs a clarification on a couple of things that I wanted to say. 2022 to 23 was a $3.6 million deficit. What was the number for 23 to 24? Because nobody's ever said if we're ahead for that session or not. 24 to 25, you're predicting 4.6 million. You're predicting a $1.9 million increase, raising our taxes no matter what. You plan on raising us 3% to come to that 1.9 figure. And then possibly trying to pierce the cap to get more money from us. So everybody that's up on that board has been the one making the mistakes, and the taxpayers are the ones that have to pay for it. So what is the number from 23 to 24?
Dr. Talbot?
I'm not sure if I'm clear on your question.
You
The
said
number for
last year.
23,
la-
24?
Yeah, last year we were in a $3.6 million deficit.
Yes.
Predicted deficit going forward for 24-25 school year.
No, not a predicted deficit. We
No, you
shared.
like to
with
call
you-
it a variance.
Yeah, it's not a deficit because it hasn't
Well,
been
when it's
experienced.
115 and it's going to be 120, that's a deficit in my checkbook. So that's one of those things you put those things around it.
Yeah, but it's conversation. It's conversation.
Conversation.
So we understand that we 1.9 million will take us to the tax cap of 3.07. Are you
You're-
saying that's not
No,
even
no,
an
no.
option?
First of all, you're taking granted that you're gonna take my 3.07.
I'm
Yes, you
not
are.
taking that for granted. I'm explaining to you what it means and the dollar amount associated
I
with it.
understand. I think
I
all
would
of,
not take for granted.
no, I think all of the people here have to realize, because it's a lot of double talking. The 3.07 is going to be a tax increase to us no matter what, almost. You're predicting that we're gonna accept that tax increase.
I'm
to
not
get to-
predicting, we're
To get to the
presenting.
1.9, right? We're 4.6 behind on the future budget. What is the number on the current one? We were 3.6, 4.6 going forward. What is the current budget number?
Can you respond to his question? I'm not sure if I'm following.
How could you not be sure? You're the
If,
superintendent.
if I'm understanding you
I need
correctly,
clarity on your question. I
If
have the
you-
right to ask for clarity, so allow me that. I'm
Okay.
going to defer to the business official because we want to answer. We want to give you an answer.
if I'm understanding your question correctly, what you are saying is that where do we stand in the 23-24 budget? Is
Correct.
that it?
Correct.
In terms of fund balance, we have been looking at it very closely. And in fact, I did a projection a couple of days ago. It is still very tight because we still continue to get bills for students. And that we have to work into our number. True that at this point, we are in the black, but it's still very tight.
So what you're saying is we were 3.6 behind. We're 4.6 going forward. That puts us at 8.2. And the current year, you don't have a definite number of how far behind we
I
are.
don't think that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that indeed, we are looking at the projected fund balance for the 23-24 school year. And what I'm saying to you is that we continue to have bills.
So we're
that-
behind on the current budget as well.
No, I didn't say that.
No, Dr. Frazier is, right?
That's not what she's saying. She's saying based on the current fund balance projection, the numbers are tight, but it's not a deficit. We're still in the black.
Okay,
You
so
know-
we're a little bit ahead for this.
Yes,
Okay. And so that's with doing all of the cuts of the teachers, right? All of the excesses that have already been taken away as far as that goes, right? So with making all those cuts and everything, we're still just barely there.
yes, currently.
Currently.
And it's a process we do every month. We will look at the numbers and update that estimate. But right now, it's still in the black.
And some of these, the board itself has a good handle on part of your job up there as a elected official is yes, a job. Yes, Ms. Santos, you were elected, right? So part of your position is making sure of the budget, correct? So this, we're finding out recently, is what we're being told that we're all of a sudden behind only as of November, we're being told, correct?
Yes.
So nobody on the board knew anything before that.
Correct.
Okay, I find it amazing that we're so far behind, 8.2 million going forward and making all these cuts. And we're still that far behind that we're talking about closing one of our schools. And the question had been raised a couple of times. Why were you not in an executive meeting?
I don't think it's up to, I don't think he doesn't have to answer that question.
Legal, he doesn't have to answer why wasn't in an executive meeting as an elected board member?
Correct.
Okay. You're really trying to cover yourself, huh? Step away from the rest of them. You've been up there for a long time.
Cheryl Quintine, West Delaware Avenue. I'm not going to take up much more of your time. I'm here thinking of ways to save Northeast. Could the district enroll 3K students? Because I know that happens in New York City. And would that bring more funds to that budget? Or that has not been considered, the 3K program, that's for 3-year-olds, in addition to pre-K? Has that been thought of? Because I also do project that we may start to lose more students to charter. And with the students we're losing, the monies are going as well, right? So I'm just wondering, could we capture younger learners? And would that bring in, more monies for Northeast? Does anybody know?
So the 3-year-olds would require us qualifying for a grant. I know there's been a lot of history about Long Island and the 3-year-olds, and there were limited districts who were able to get those dollars. Can you elaborate on that based on your history with that?
I really can't. As far as I know, we have not applied for that grant. It was a very, very limited window for that, and at the time that it was offered to it, it wasn't a possibility for us. As far as I know, we did not apply for it.
Okay, but we'll certainly look into it when it comes back around. Thank you
That
for
is worth-
sharing.
Yeah, that is worth exploring because the infrastructure is not much more different than for pre-K,
Yes,
right? Thank you.
thank you.
Dr. Talbot, do you have a report for the community at all? Okay. Any board members have anything? Oh, sorry. Okay.
Hi, good evening, Dill Cronin, 32 Mill Place. Can someone clarify this meeting that is scheduled for the community on Friday?
It's not a meeting that's hosted by the school board whatsoever. It was an announcement that came out that, I think it's Prayer Tabernacle on Great Neck Road is having a community meeting. So
It's a call
open.
to action for anybody that resides in the district to
Anyone.
come to a meeting.
Yes, correct. It's
Okay.
open to everyone.
Okay, do you know anything?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, thank you.
This happen, I'm sorry, but this meeting happens every year. Reverend Willie has this meeting every year for anybody in this Amityville School District to talk about the district and all that,
Okay, thank you.
you know.
Margaret Jeff Amityville. Superintendent, you're going to relinquish your raise on the budget?
So as she wants to know, she's going to relinquish her raise. As we go to make the final budget, then we'll make that decision if that's going to be relinquished or not.
Okay.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at
Second.
8:21? Leslie, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.